Bienvenue and welcome to the first episode of the French Perspective. I'm your host, Blaise, bringing you a unique look at love, relationship, and life through a French lens. But today we are doing something extra special because I have two incredible guests joining me. They are not only a married couple, but also business partners, providing that love and success can exist under the same roof. James and Alma Curran are the power duo behind Lynchpin Funnel. James, an American entrepreneur, and Alma, a European powerhouse and CEO, have built a thriving business together while navigating the dynamic of marriage, leadership, and cultural differences. Today, we are diving deep into their vision of marriage, how culture shape relationship, how they balance business and love, the lesson they have learned along the way. Do American and European perspective on marriage clash or complement each other? And does working together make their marriage stronger or more challenging? We are about to find out. Welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you for having us on your first episode, Guy. We are honored to be here with you on this journey, and we're ready for any questions you've got to send us.
Well, my first question to you is, do you think being from two different cultures make marriage harder, or does it actually make it more interesting and fulfilling?
Can we answer yes and yes?
Yeah, you can also, yeah, you can say what you think. It's harder to be from two different cultures.
Yes.
I think it has been.
Yeah.
There and maybe not even so much in just the category of marriage, but just having different ideas for what is standard and what's acceptable and how to interact. I'll tell you a great story. When Alma and I were first hanging out,
Mm.
she had a new car, a newer car than me, a brand new car, and I had an old busted car, and she drove us a lot to different places. And I'm an American, and one of the
Yes.
things that's very common culturally for America, especially for younger people who are getting rides from people, is to like give a couple dollars for gas money as a token of appreciation. It's like,
Yes.
you know, I'm grateful that you drove. I honor the fact that you were spending resources to get us both to this place, and we were going to dinner. And I think I gave her $5, and she just crumpled it up and threw it in the back seat.
Oh, oh, really?
Yeah.
Hola. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one example of just like I'm like, oh wow, that's the opposite of what I expected, and there have been a lot of different things like that along the way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm. And I think another challenge is that where I come from, um, in my culture,
Mm.
things are very community oriented,
Yeah.
right? We pour ourselves into the community,
Mhm.
and for better or for worse, right? There are a lot of good things that come from that, but there are also, the community knows all of your business too.
Yeah.
But it's very much community oriented, and where he's from culturally,
Yeah.
it's more individual,
Uh-huh.
and independent. So that's where culturally we were clashing.
So,
Um,
so
yeah.
back to that specific moment. So, culturally speaking, who had to adapt more? Did one of you feel like you had to compromise more than the other to to the culture?
I think so. Yes. Yeah, because I moved to America.
Mhm.
Uh, Naturally, started learning the American ways, right? The
Yeah.
language, the culture. So
Mhm.
I believe that I adapted more
Mhm.
to it by default. But for him, it was more of a choice.
Yeah.
He chose to pick out my culture's things that he liked about it, and then
Mhm.
he adapted to those.
And he embraced it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I sought it out. I
Mhm.
mean, one of the main things that drew me to Alma was the fact that she was different. She had different cultural norms. I wasn't so satisfied with the way that things had gone up to that point in my life, and I was looking for something that was very different, something special, unique, um,
Yeah.
exotic, different, something that was a true gem, and that's what I found in Alma. So it's not like for me that I was attempting to preserve any sort of cultural norms. Like I sought out differences, and the
Mhm.
degree to which I successfully adopted or didn't adopt is up for debate, But like, you know, I would go to parties, and there would be Bosnian parties, and there
Mhm.
would be Bosnian food and Bosnian music and Bosnian culture, and I would
Yeah.
say whatever Bosnian words that I knew how to say with pride, and I would butcher them, and then I would ask people questions, and like I was definitely attempting to assimilate into her culture as much as I could, because I did want it. I did want something different. I
Yeah.
wanted something different from how I was brought up, and
Mhm.
and that was definitely a goal. And when we go to Bosnia, it's still so overwhelmingly different that I get kind of lost in the shuffle, and I'm used to being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, how I want
Exactly.
to do it, and I end up sitting on the couch ordering, where are we going, what's next, who's driving, and I feel a little bit like I'm an outsider as well.
So, did you go to Bosnia before you get married?
We did, didn't we?
No, no, we didn't.
No.
No, it
Oh,
was after.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, before getting married and after getting married, what was the most difficult, most surprising cultural shock in your marriage?
I think family involvement.
Mm.
My family was very involved. It was kind of James was just kind of brought into the family, and
Mhm.
my family expanded, just got bigger by one person.
Yeah.
And I think his world culturally is okay. Now James is married. Now he goes off and starts his own family, right?
Yeah.
There's a disconnect.
They lost a family
They lost
member,
a
and
family member.
Alma's family gained a family member.
So, your family, Alma, is more a bigger family in the sense of definition of family. And
Yes.
James' family is more the American that me, my wife, and my daughter first
Yes.
kind of.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes.
my next question is, how do you handle differences on parenting? Do you guys which do you decide, or have you decided which culture to raise your daughter, or there is more influence of like the values of to pass on your daughter?
I think that's such a great question. We had to learn to navigate that ourselves, kind of because I was heavily influenced also by the American culture.
Mhm.
Um, we had to find our own unique blend and kind of create our own blue ocean, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, we we raised her. We are raising her more in the American way,
Mhm.
with our own infusion of Bosnian.
Okay.
And would you say that?
Yes, and but it's not solely Bosnian. It's a more like a multicultural view,
Yeah.
where she is half Bosnian, half American, but she's a child of the world in a
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah. You guys are travelers. You travel
Yeah,
often.
Yeah.
You travel.
yeah.
And we pick out the values from, um let's say, Ireland, from Japan, from everywhere we go, whatever we like, we infuse our family with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And and now that's we find that to be beautiful, but at the same time, she doesn't feel Bosnian or American, right?
Yeah.
She kind of doesn't really feel like she has this solid Bosnian thing in her. You know, we were watching My Big Fat Greek Wedding
Yes,
a
yes.
couple weeks ago,
I'm
and she
familiar.
said, "Well, our family is that big. Why aren't we doing what they're doing?" Right? So she kind of wants that. She wants that Bosnian flavor now, but we feel like she just now is starting to actually want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense. She's 12 and is just expanding her palette, so to say,
Yeah.
about different cultures and things. She's been indoctrinated into both entrepreneurship, but also being a traveler and experiencing other cultures. So she has a solid base, and now she's ready to lean into it a little bit more, I'd say.
Mm. But my next question is, how do you navigate gender roles in a marriage, being at the same time business partners?
Okay, this is a really interesting and awesome topic because um, I, as the man, I basically I was taught pretty young that girls have to be treated special and separate, and we don't roughhouse with girls. We don't do I it was basically my takeaway was to de-emphasize masculinity, to de-emphasize the polarity, and that women are equal. Women's rights movement was a really important movement to allow all kinds of things, of course, voting and the right to work and all that. And it went really, really far, to the point where um, this has been an epidemic of a lack of polarity
Mhm.
in relationships.
Yeah.
And I was drinking that Kool-Aid. I thought I was sophisticated and intelligent and nuanced to say, like, you can do everything that I can do. I can do the dishes. You
Yeah.
can do the this, that, and
Lifting of
yeah,
right,
yeah,
heavyweight, yeah.
and that had created so many problems for us early on in our relationship.
Mhm.
It it was really enlightening to find out how wrong I was
Mhm.
about my views, and
Yeah.
only when we started aligning along the more traditional poles
Mhm.
has things become a lot more easy and powerful and exciting and romantic and as it should have been the entire time.
Well, I give you a lot of credit for having the humility to recognize it.
Oh
It's
man,
very rare.
when you're undergoing so much pain and things are just not working out, you got to say, like, what is going
Is it me?
on here? Yeah, like,
It's got to be me,
yeah,
right?
like, I feel like as a human, you have to be willing to be wrong about things. Like, you can,
Exactly.
you can be right and miserable, or you can be wrong and learn a thing or two and increase your effectiveness and the value you bring to the world. And so, um, sometimes it takes me a really long time to realize that I'm wrong. Sometimes I realize that I'm wrong more quickly. But with this, it definitely took me a while, because it's the fish doesn't know it's in water. I was so used to this cultural norm,
Yeah.
and it's only been with a recent resurgence of polarity and more traditional masculine, feminine energies that I've been like, okay, this is how it should be, and I understand why it had to go where it needed to go, but I'm grateful that it's coming back and we're having more polarity in relationships.
Your change happened when you got your daughter, or what made that shift in you?
That was a catalyst for sure. Our daughter brought about a lot of changes into our world. I was also really unhealthy before we had our daughter. I was drinking and smoking a lot, eating a lot of food.
Yeah.
I was basically 30 pounds heavier than I am right now, and it
Mhm.
wasn't like I lost a bunch of muscle; it was a bunch of fat.
Mhm.
So I was just kind of like unhappy and adding on cigarettes and alcohol and food, and just like something had to give. So when we had her, I started to stop a lot of these things,
Mhm.
but I was still like, good guy, dad, parent, we're equals. I'm going to help out and do whatever. And I did go work. And for the first 2 years of Ella's life, Alma did stay home and took care of her
Mhm.
exclusively. That turned out to not work out very well because Alma was going nuts and she needed to be out there making a dent in the
definitely.
world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the polarity was the lack of polarity was made more put more into focus during the parental, like, it's perfect. We only have one child. You have the woman, you have the man, and the focus of the child. So it makes it very clear if there is polarity or a lack of it, and that's when things started to really change, I'd say.
My grandmother used to say, if someone tell you that there is such a thing as a perfect marriage, don't believe them. So my question to you, Alma, is when you saw the change, the shift in a positive way for your husband, that brought you more closer?
Absolutely. It did. It did. It is uh it allowed me to relax, right? It allowed me to not have to always be on guard, because I realized that I was in my own world playing a man and a woman. I was the protector of our daughter, I was the nurturer, I was the caretaker, I had to bring 50-50 to the table, right? Everything was half of the time I was a dude. I was in my masculine energy, and which emasculated him. So it emphasized the belief that he already had. So when he stepped into the more masculine role, more of a protector, provider role, it allowed me to become my natural nurturing self. And it benefited, obviously, our entire family. So now we are pretty much aware of where we stand, right? What my place in the relationship is, as the nurturer, as the caretaker, that as the creative, fun, flowing, feminine, and for him to be more on the masculine, protective, providing side.
Straight.
Yeah. And we just,
so when it comes to making business decision, do you look at yourself as a husband and wife, or you find a way to separate private life with business life?
I think we definitely create a boundary and separate it. The only time that really blends in is where I think of, like, oh, should I do this? Is this going to be good for my relationship with my family? Will this client that I sign on impact my family positively or negatively? That kind of thing, or if I haven't done my job and we don't, if there's turbulence in the business, like, I got to get my ass in gear so that, my family is safe and protected, and all the resources keep coming and all that kind of stuff, so, like, it's a source of inspiration, but it's never the kind of thing where I believe that a business decision is, like, somehow blended with the marriage. At least I'm not seeing it. If there is one.
No, I think it's still like we're keeping our roles as in the masculine and feminine model of the world. For me, I used to push a lot, right? I would get into that masculine, like, what's going on, right? And I would just use that force. And now I use less force, but I'm more of a inspiration, I would say, right? I would push just enough where it kind of gets him to the edge where he has to break through, but I don't push with force. I push with more of the inspirational muse like energy, I would say.
Way sexier.
Yeah. So my next question is, how do you deal with conflict
today? Yes. How do we deal with conflict today?
Today, it's a piece of cake. For the first 15 years of our marriage, not so much.
And how do you manage? I know that you acknowledge some of the things you used to do, and you made some changes, positive changes. So can you see it coming and avoid it?
Yeah, I'm of two minds of this, because there might be some avoidance in that not everything has to be a fight, or I didn't sleep a lot and I'm tired and I'm stressed and I'm just going to bring all that shit to this conversation and not the actual, I might be bringing some unnecessary components that are just going to cause problems. So like, let me just go work out or focus on work or something like that. Like there's some wisdom there.
Yeah.
And there is some anticipation too of, in the past, I would let things fester and not bring things up early and often. And then that builds and resentment builds. And then, a bunch of pressure comes and then an explosion happens. That's I'm only going to speak for myself. That's what I would do. And that's what would happen. And we would explode at each other, never physically, of course, but like, we have had some knockdown, drag out fights verbally for sure.
But that's everybody.
Yeah.
Well, Alma, my question to you is how you feel like being married to an American man? Is this compared to the European kind of culture? What is the most shocking thing that
That's such a cool question. I really like that question because for me, I've lived in 3 different countries, and I've lived in America the longest.
Yeah.
And I've been obviously with James the longest. I haven't had many relationships before him. So like I said, we kind of created our own culture. We extracted what we like about the American culture, what we like about the Bosnian culture, what we like about the Irish and the Japanese and all the cultures that we have visited, and we created our own culture. Where at the beginning it was really challenging because at the beginning I did see it as a struggle. But now we have our own culture, right? And he isn't an American to me, and right?
Yeah.
We're our own unit, and we have created our own world. Today, because we've been together for 23 years.
Yeah.
So today, it's just us.
Yeah.
And if I don't like something and I say it, I don't mean it as an American thing. I mean it as, hey, it's you need to do something here, right? But at the beginning, it was definitely.
So today you compromise more.
Yeah, today we understand and we compromise and we compliment more and we forgive more, and we kind of see it as an individual thing rather than cultural thing.
Yeah, I noticed it because I go and interview people. I just spoke to a 92 years old man at the gym, and I told him, he said to me, they've been married like 56 years or something like that. I said, well, what's your secret? He said, forgiveness. Don't hold too much, and forgiving is the key. So, yeah, so that's very great. I mean, I think finding a way to deal with your differences, to attenuate your conflict, or sometimes some couple go and have a monthly check-in, like at the end of the month, check on each other. Maybe you did something. Well, what can I do better the next month? Yeah. And so, do you feel much happier today?
No question at all about that.
And then, if you have to give an advice to a young man who used to be James, what would you tell him?
I tell him to start lifting weights early, get some testosterone in you. I tell him that everything that he wants in life comes on the other side of responsibility and sacrifice. Yeah. And if you didn't understand that, it's fine. But to do more for others than you do for yourself, and a lot of good things are going to happen.
What about you, Alma? What you give to a young lady who used to be you at that time?
Not everybody's against you.
Okay.
You don't have that as many enemies as you think you do. You don't have to fight everything.
Exactly.
Yes, I used to definitely, that younger version of myself definitely thought she had to protect herself from everybody and everything. And she was she was always in her warrior mode, right? And I would definitely advise her to look around and look for friends and see evidence that there are many people who are your friends, who want the best for you.
And the last question, I believe we have 30 minutes, but I have one single question, one last one. Do your marriage and your view of marriage and love come together? Are we really different? Like in the sense that it doesn't matter of your nationality. Do you find a mixed couple like yours, like two different culture, interesting?
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
And we both wanted very interesting. I didn't want a boring blonde Becky. I didn't.
He's gone. She knocked him down.
I didn't. You know, I love you, Guy, and I just got to tell how it is. You know, I didn't want that. I wanted something interesting. So this is why I sought Alma. You know.
You got me. Well, man, that's a great.
Sorry to all the Beckys in the world, but like, you know, I've been off the market for a very long time anyway, so I was never going to be yours. It's fine. Yeah, like it's you know, you got to know what you want. I knew what I wanted early on, and it was like I wanted interesting, I wanted different, I wanted something that was going to be challenging and complex and interesting and stretch me, and I've gotten everything that I wanted from that and more. So
yeah,
it's been the right choice, 100%.
Well, that's an incredible conversation. Thank you, James, and thanks you, Alma. I truly appreciate you both sharing your insight on marriage, business, and cultural differences. It's clear that love and success can thrive together when built on mutual respect, vision, and maybe even a little bit more of the French perspective. So, for everyone listening, whether you are married, dating, or just fascinated by how relationship works across culture, there's a lot of take from this discussion. Relationships are not about following one formula. They are about finding what works for you, learning from each other, and embracing growth together. James and Alma, before you wrap up, where can our listener connect with you and learn more about what you do and learn more the Linchpin funnels?
Well, if you want to learn more about Linchpin funnels, we've got this really cool website you can go to called mrrmagic.com. MRR stands for monthly recurring revenue. And it's a fun calculator that lets you pick how much you want to make every month and how many customers you want to add every month. And you can see your revenue grow over time. And after that, there's an opportunity to get a free book. To connect with me personally on Facebook, just look me up. It's James Michael Curran. That's my official Facebook tag. And Alma is Alma Curran.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we look forward to chatting with you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the FrenchPerspective.com so you never miss an upcoming conversation. And if today's episode resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And of course, if you want to explore more about love, relationship, and life à la française, head over to howtolovelikethefrench.com for more insight and exclusive content. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt. Au revoir.
Au revoir.